Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm always ready. Set, hit it.
I saw you were with them last night. I saw you were with them last night.
Yeah, that's engaging time, coming to a venue, a coffee shop, or some kind of open mic place near you, coming soon. As soon as I get through the month of April and the first week or two in May, I got a whole bunch of things going on, Sean. But I will be dipping my toe back in the water and come out and see Engaging Time. We do covers, we do originals. In fact, Sean had mentioned it at the beginning of the show. I did 3 originals on Tim Graham. Is it Tim Graham, right? The Tim Graham show, Sean? Sean? Hello, Sean?
Oh, yes, it was. I had the mute button on.
Sorry. I gotcha.
Yes.
No problem. So the Tim Graham show, Tim invited me to play, and I played 3 or 4 originals on his show, and then a couple of those songs were Christian songs. And TJ, another producer here, was listening, and after I got done with Tim, she came up to me and she says, I want you to be here at 7:30 and play those songs for me. They were beautiful. So I did that, and then at 8:30 I followed up with more songs with Sean and K2. I gotta tell you, I love that moniker K2. That is so cool. But thank you guys for letting me play, and we'll see how it goes. I know I've been talking about this probably ad nauseum for the last 2 years, but my producer Dale and I are getting together in the middle of May, and hopefully by the end of October, November, we'll have our first CD to come out, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, so back here at 101.5 FM, your insurance corner, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. We're talking about the chaos in the market, but now we're going to turn our tables to how to settle your nervousness a little bit. I say this all the time, Sean, that it's not about the pool of money you have. It's about income, and it's freedom, and it's lifestyle. The pool of money gives you freedom, but you don't live on a pool. You live on income. And we're going to show you what a pool can look like in a static environment where things are going up on a consistent basis, no real frills, just very simple. Then we're going to show you what it looks like when the market takes a 16% dip, and the reason I use that is the S&P 500 is down 16% from its high, and a lot of people invest in the S&P 500, so that's why I use that. And then we're going to look at stabilizing your income by using an annuity. So let's just talk about the 4% rule in general. In its simplest form, you have $1 million in your portfolio. You're going to draft 4% of that portfolio out. That's $40,000 a year. And you're going to do that consistently and with discipline. You're not going to increase for taxes, not taxes. You're not going to increase for inflation. Just keeping it simple, you're going to do $4,000 or $40,000 a year. And then the portfolio gets a 4% increase after you take the $40,000 out. So we did that math, and I sent it to Sean, and Sean, you confirmed the math looks okay, right, on that particular front?
Yeah, it does.
So essentially, folks, the 4% rule in a static environment, if you're not adjusting the income for inflation, which technically you should, but to make the point of how this works, you don't ever run out of money. You got plenty of money in the pool, and the income will go on in literally probably, well, not in perpetuity, but just based on this, it'll last from, let me see, I ran this from 2020 to 2065, and there's still $823,000 in the account, and that's 45 years later? That money isn't going to run out anytime soon. So now you take that same portfolio, and in 2025, I'm indicating that your portfolio was $956,000, and it took a hit of 16%, and then you took your $40,000 out. You have $765,000 now in your account, not $956,000, so you're down almost $200,000. right out the gate. But you still need 40. You still need 40, and you're depending on that 4% market to come back. So we're using that 4% as a static return. You're out of money in 21 years, folks. This is simple math. You're out of money in 21 years. Now, you need 40. What if I told you there's a way to make sure that that money doesn't run out and you can stabilize your income for a portion of your portfolio? And this is real numbers, folks. This isn't pie in the sky. This is not made up. I took it off a portfolio. So the numbers I'm about to give you are real. So we took $500,000 out of the account and we moved that into an annuity and we turned the income on immediately. The income is going to generate based on an age of 66 years old for a joint income. So this is husband and wife. You're going to generate $28,850 a year. Now, you still need $40,000. So we just guaranteed $28,850 a year for the rest of your lives, both of you. So now instead of needing $40,000 to come out of the portfolio, you just need $12,000. So we circle back to the portfolio and we start with, and these numbers may be a little off because of some mathematics, but it's actually in your favor. We start out with $304,000 left in the account. And we pull $12,000 a year out every year because that's what we need, because we need 40. You will not run out of money by the year, let me see, 2050 it looks like. You went from $304,000 down to $292,000. You got your 12 from the portfolio. The portfolio is getting a 4% rate of return. You got your $28,000 in perpetuity from the annuity. You cannot run out of income. Even if the pool runs out of money, you're still going to get the money. You're still going to get your income until you pass away, no matter what. And because of the way we design this, you've still got $40,000 a year coming in. You've now stabilized your income. You've stabilized your portfolio in terms of the income need. If the market takes a hit, you're only drafting $12,000 out of it, not $40,000. So you've extended the life of the pool possibly for 40 years, if not more, similar to the one with the first columns that we started with $1 million portfolio and a 4% rate of return and $40,000 coming out. This is a way to stabilize your program. Now, annuities are not for everybody. They are not. In my opinion, this kind of a portfolio works if you're starting out with a minimum of $150,000 or $250,000 to give yourself a chance to mitigate the run on your portfolio by putting some money into an annuity. The other thing these annuities do, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, will protect you against long-term care issues. So if you can't do 2 of 6 what are called active daily living things like getting up out of a chair, or it's called transferring, if you can't transfer without help, can't feed yourself without help, cannot bathe without help, can't toilet without help, have incontinence, and I think I'm missing one, any 2 of those that a doctor can certify, and that's going to trigger what's called a doubling effect on the income. So in the event that occurs, your income, in this example, would double from, I'm just going to round up to keep the math simple, $29,000 a month to $58,000 a month, either until the account runs to zero or for 5 years, whichever, again, depending on the contract. So now you've got extra income, guaranteed, and I want to underscore this, folks. These are guaranteed numbers. I couldn't say it if it weren't true. These are guaranteed numbers. And no offense to my brethren on the in the mutual fund business or in companies that don't do these kind of things, but if your advisor is not at least giving you an option to put some of the money in your account, I would question their fiduciary status. Just saying. Now, I don't do mutual funds, and I don't pretend to do them. I used to do them. Frankly, I sucked at it. I'm your defense. I protect your life. I protect your health, preserve your wealth, and guarantee an income for the rest of your life. And I couldn't say it if it weren't true. They can't, unless they put a portfolio like this in as a part of your overall income planning, period, full stop. This is a way to help stop the bleeding so that you can relax even when the markets take a crap like they're doing right now. Like I said, this portfolio only needed an extra $12,000, and based on a 4% rate of return over the long haul, you never run out of money. I thought about adding, Sean, putting $15,000 or $16,000 in there, but I ran out of time. I didn't have time to do the mathematics. So I know I showed you these numbers, and I did find the mathematical calculation. I forgot to subtract the 40,000. That's why we were off by whatever we were off by. And I did see that. So any thoughts on that approach for some people?
I think it makes sense, especially if you're playing, I've got 10 years until retirement. It makes sense because then you're starting to lock in some surety. So when you would do retirement plans, and this is what I went to school for, you would look at guaranteed income, things like Social Security, until Donald Trump walked around. But anyway, you look at Social Security, that you're going to get that money. You would look at pensions from your employer. Not too many companies offer pensions anymore. You would look at your assets that you owned outside of retirement, like maybe you had inherited money or you had property and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always good to make sure that you have some sort of it's going to be there type money, like an annuity, so that in the days where the market goes up 10%, the only thing that you might be upset about is, well, if I'd have had that money, I'd have made 10% instead of 4% or something like that. But when the market goes down 16%, you're thinking, I can still eat when I'm retired.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. And to your point about pensions, very few of us these days have pension plans. And for those of you who do, God love you. That is the holy grail of retirement. I've got a friend of mine who was a teacher for a long time, and her pension is stellar. And I think there's an inflation hedge included in there. Now, I'm going to add one other thing about pensions, folks. Pensions are great as long as they're funded appropriately. The market just took a hit, big time. Those pension plans are invested in the stock market. So there's a promise to pay, let's say, $50,000 to somebody for the rest of their lives in a pension plan, plus inflationary increases. But that pool of money just took a huge hit. The actuaries and the trustees now have to figure out a way to shore up that pension plan so it passes an audit. And if they don't pass an audit, they have to make very difficult decisions about what the payouts are going to be in the future. And if that pension plan is not funded appropriately, some people that are getting nice pension plans now may wake up one day and their checks are bouncing, or maybe they're not bouncing, but they've been cut in half. On that same front, and I said this last week, these idiots in Washington better deal with Social Security because it's going broke by the year 2035. And for those of us that are either taking Social Security or approaching Social Security in 10 years, your benefit will be cut by 21% if they don't do anything. Now, the reality is they'll probably get, like studying for a final exam that you never went to class and they're going to stay up all night and figure it out. That's probably what's going to happen, Sean. They're going to stay up all night during, 2033 at midnight and figure out a way to, stave off the pension, the Social Security system from going bankrupt or going into default. I would argue this: those people in Washington are the trustees of our money. That's our money. That's 12.4% of your money, your paycheck going into Social Security, every paycheck. To To me, if it fails, they should all go to prison for failure of their fiduciary responsibility to manage that trust. And I would go all the way back to everybody from 2033 all the way back to 1980 as far as I'm concerned, or 1983, because that's the last time it got fixed, 1983. And there's no mercy, just like they're doing with the immigrants right now, no mercy. You were part of the problem, you're going to prison. Full stop. And if somebody wants to challenge me on that, knock yourself out.
There's a lot of people you're going to lock up, but I don't disagree, Bill. I mean, I really don't. I know that I've had conversations with people that are now drawing Social Security, and there are people that are paying in that don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
And
it's my money. It's not going to go away. Well, I got news for you.
29, 30 years old people that are paying into this, and they don't think they're going to get a penny.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what, Sean? When I was growing up, the same thing. We didn't think we were going to have anything either, but it's still there. The rules changed, and the rules are going to change again. It's not a matter of why they're going to change. It's math, folks. Only 2.5 to 3 people are funding one person on Social Security right now. When we're not talking about Medicare, we're talking about Social Security right now. It's a 2.5 to 3 to 1 supporting one person on Social Security. We're living longer. Those payouts are not going to change. For anybody that's on there, my opinion is it will change for people probably 50 or 49 and younger. They'll probably have to get full retirement at age 70, not 67. They may be able to buy in earlier, but it's going to cost them. And I suspect on the Medicare front, they may be able to buy in at 65, but it's going to cost them. And they'll probably have to wait till 70. And then they're going to probably have to change the income schematic so that the income thresholds are going to be raised. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago to maybe $500,000. So I did get a text message from one of our regular listeners, Sean. I won't throw her under the bus, but she knows who she is. What happens to the annuity if you die after a few years? All right, so excellent question.
I asked that question too.
Yep, excellent question. So in the old days, this is where annuities have their bad rap. In the old days, if you had an annuity, whether you were getting an income, well, in particular, if you were getting an income, generally speaking, if you were getting an income and you died while there was still money in the account and there was no place left to give the money to, the insurance company kept the rest of it. Those products do not exist in today's annuity market. So if you're drawing down, let's say $30,000 a year in income, and you've got $500,000 in the account, eventually that $500,000 is going to go to zero. There's no two ways around it. So if there's money left over in the portfolio and both you and your spouse passed away, the money is going to be given to whoever your beneficiaries are in the annuity because it's an insurance contract. So there will be money left over for anybody who's a beneficiary. In the event you've drained the account to zero, that means two things. One, you won the bet. So in my example that I drew up, the person drawing $28,850 over a 20-year period, I think it was maybe 25, drew out over $760,000. They won the bet. They put in $500, they got more out than they put in by far. Now, that portfolio is probably zero. So if that happens, you got all the income out of it that you were entitled to, but there's no beneficial interest to the survivors in the family. And you know, we hear this all the time, Sean, of our parents or grandparents. Spend the money; it's yours. Do what you want to do; it's your money. Well, that's what they did. That's what they did. So in this particular example, if there's money left over in the account, it will be passed to the beneficiaries. If there's no money left in the account, that means you took all the money plus extra, but the promise was if you do this, your income will continue for the rest of your life. Now, that's typically in a fixed indexed annuity. If you're in a variable annuity, Johnny bar the door. Those variable annuities, Sean, just took a hit just like everybody in the stock market. Those people should be more afraid than anybody because there is no guarantees in a variable annuity, both in terms of concept or in structure. There's no guarantees. You're in the market for a reason. You wanted the higher end uptick. Well, what goes up goes down. You won, you lost. I can see our listener is about ready to text me something else. So I am so wanting to say her name, but I'll leave her out of it. Okay, what is the minimum amount you can put in an annuity? Can you add to it? So the minimum amount, the minimum bare bones is between $20,000 and $25,000 is minimum. But if you want this thing to do income at a certain level, you're talking about $100,000 or $200,000 as a minimum to draw an income out. That $500,000 example for if you put in 250, it's a linear equation. You're going to draft out $14,000 and change if you put $250,000 in. So if you're just going to drop in $50,000, the income is going to be there, but it's not going to be a lot. It might cover food and groceries, but it's not going to cover a whole bunch. If you put in a substantial amount as a part of an overall portfolio design for yourself, you're gonna have more bang for your buck in the long run. The other thing I want to mention before we end the show, because we're coming up on the top of the hour, is taxes. If you have IRA money in or your 401k money that was rolled into annuity, it's called an IRA rollover, all of that money coming out is going to be income taxable. While it sits in the annuity, and it's growing, presumably, it's tax deferred. Until you get to age 73, when you have this thing called a required minimum distribution, which is mandatory. Most of these annuities, at least the ones that I sell, have they're RMD friendly, we call them, which means the insurance company will let you dip in, even if you're still in the surrender piece. They'll let you dip in and take a piece of the money so that you can pay the income tax on all of your IRA portfolios. And let me just add to this. So the annuity is going to grow tax deferred until you get to 73, but let's say you have 5 different IRAs with 5 different companies. When you get to age 73, you have to add them all up. You can't just take one and go, okay, I have this one, they're going to get a piece of that. No. You have to add them all up. So if you have 50,000 here, 100,000 over there, add them all up, you've got 300,000 in IRA money. Go to the calculation. The government will tell you to the penny what you have to pay. It's actually a percentage, and then write a check. The money can come from any source. It doesn't have to even come from those places. If you've got the money, you can do it. But most of the time, most people don't. They withdraw the money, pay the tax, and they're good to go. But it can come from anywhere. But know that RMD tax is real, and more than likely, the RMD tax is going to be a part of this whole tax discussion that these guys in Washington are talking about. If you have non-qualified money, which means non-IRA money in your account, the money's still growing tax deferred, and the money is taxed what is called last in, first out, which means interest comes out first, and you're taxed on the growth. And the insurance company will help you with this. They'll tell you exactly what's taxable if you're taking withdrawals or distributions. So you understand that in an annuity, it's tax-deferred growth, but if you take money out in a non-qualified parameter, some of that money is going to be income taxable. Lastly, if you have a Roth IRA, it's growing tax-deferred. It all comes out tax-free. All of it comes out tax-free. One thing that you mentioned, Sean, about these dinner theater seminars.
Potato guys.
Yeah. Well, I did 2 of those in my career. I won't do them anymore. Though they actually put on nice meals. I'll give them that.
They do.
But they're expensive, folks. They cost $5,000 to $7,000 to put those things on. They're not cheap. you had mentioned converting your IRA to a Roth IRA. This is really important to understand. Remember, we talked about Medicare and the so-called IRMA tax. If you convert